Okay. So now you have your own video, so that's perfect.
Cool. Well, yeah, because I want to separate the audio for later. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just putting it out there, or being everyone on this call is being recorded. So just so that there's no confusion. What I plan to do with this recording, I'm not sure. I'll probably just analyze it myself. So we're ready to rock and roll.
Yep, you're on. Thanks you everyone who stayed on, and I'm turning it over to Mr. Walker. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
All right, guys, I want to say it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you today. Myself and Miss Mosca have been kind of going back and forth on how we're going to deliver this content. And this is my first time doing any kind of a live stream, which I hope to do more of in the future. And to talk about a little bit what's going on in college admissions, and then get into some answering of your questions. And you guys have some good ones here, so I really appreciate that. Again, feel free to chime in. I got the chat open. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on it while I'm talking. The first thing I want to talk about is the state of college admissions. So the coronavirus has set us off in quite a hectic chain of events. Many of our national conferences have been canceled. I was supposed to go to Texas this month for the Texas Association of College Counselors meeting. That was abruptly canceled. And I'm working on 10 college fairs throughout California for April. All those were canceled. And not only are they canceled, but the admissions officers at a lot of these universities have been banned from traveling. So recruitment has stalled. I'm not hearing or seeing from college admissions reps as much as I had in before. So what's going on now is that we're all just kind of navigating this water as best as we can, with all of our experience and our collective wisdom, to try to to do what's best for the kids. And there's a few things that have been talked about, but no official decisions. So I'm just going to give you guys a kind of like the 401 on what's going on the back end. For those of you who are familiar with May 1st, May 1st is official college decision day. That's when there's the hype machine. Michelle Obama started this initiative a few years ago, where everybody showcased what colleges are going to, because that has been the historical deadline for universities to let you know if you're going to be admitted. Well, we're throwing that out the window. We in the industry are talking about, and it's very likely going to happen, you're going to see June 1st deadlines for deposits, and possibly even July 1st. This is all unprecedented, all very new. And I fully expect high schools to learn about this information last minute. So if you are anticipating a big May 1st event at your school, or if your school's trying to do something in or around it and you haven't heard from your college, know that it may be a while. And colleges are doing this for the sake of students who aren't able to travel. Mail has been slow, offices have been functioning slow. And in response to that, colleges are gracefully pushing back their deadlines. This is going to come with some unintended consequences, I believe, good and bad. One thing that I have seen in this industry is, when there is a crisis of this magnitude, the first thing that we see in our industry is that many students decide to stay home for college. Whether that's real or actual in regards to the financial issues, it doesn't matter. Meaning that everybody's just hyper aware of cost when things like this happen. Last time it was the 2008 recession. Before that was the 9/11 attacks. That is when we saw students who may have planned to live on campus or planned to go across states to go to college. We saw that more people stayed close to home, didn't live in the dorms. So one thing we're going to see is a lot of students nationally stay close to home and forego staying on campus. And this trend can last about 2 years before folks start calming down and feeling like they can spend money to go out of state. This is going to lead into some opportunities, though. Even with what's going on here with us not being able to go outside. I'm seeing businesses become innovative. I needed to buy some parts from my computer from Best Buy. Best Buy did curbside delivery. I think we find a way in all markets. But if you're being waitlisted for a top school, one thing I want to say, because of this anticipated trend of people staying close to home, what's going to happen, those waitlist letters were decided early March, late February. We're going to see the consequences of that. So if you were waitlisted to a school that you're seriously interested in, we need to work together to make sure you have a strong interest form, because you have to declare that you want to accept the waitlist status. And then 2, they don't ask for more information, but you want to send more information. So you do want to send additional letters of recommendation, updated, not the old ones. You want to send your third quarter report cards, things like that. These are going to be vital in the colleges deciding to take you off the wait list. The wait list sizes are actually a lot lower this year. I have one student I'm working with privately, got waitlisted for Colorado College. They only put 250 kids on that wait list. I'm fairly comfortable that, knowing what I've seen in the industry, that she might get pulled off that. So that's just a FYI for you and your friends, just to keep that in mind, that if you are waitlisted, there's a good chance to kind of get off of that. And then the last part I wanted to say in regards to that, because if you're waitlisted, and not even if you're just waitlisted, if you're considering to stay close to home or even going to school like UNR, housing deposits are still going to be important, especially at local colleges. If you're thinking of going to a local state school, UNLV, UNR, ASU, a Cal State, or even a UC, they are going to see an influx of people wanting to stay close to home. So it's going to be harder to live on campus. So if you're interested in that, make sure you get your deposits in early, especially UNR. If you got waitlisted for a school that you're holding your breath for and that you're praying on, that's awesome. But definitely hedge your bets and pay that housing deposit to use UNR, because it's very difficult to find housing at that campus. And it's only gotten worse since they lost one building last year. So I've said a bunch so far. Does anybody have any questions or comments on what I've mentioned? Not quite yet.
Good. Aaliyah has her hand up.
Oh, how do I see Aaliyah? Oh, hey, I have to scroll. Hey, Aaliyah.
Okay, so my question is about like the verification letter. Like, I sent my thing off in like February and I still haven't heard back. So what do I do?
In your case, I don't know if I remember, was it 10 business days that we're looking at?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I still haven't heard anything, and I've been calling, but like everything's closed. Like, I don't know who to call or like who to talk to.
So that verification letter, unfortunately, the only other, since you put in the request once, we can try resending it, but via email. We can also try to do an electronic version of it, but I would imagine that everything is stalled, which is why we haven't heard anything. Governments aren't officially closed, but there are a lot of people working from home, and everything is just, like I said, slowed down tremendously, which is why colleges are going to be pushing things to June 1st. But what you can do is you can put in a separate request. We can try all avenues. You can email a request. You can actually do a request online through the irs.gov. Sometimes it goes through, sometimes it doesn't. But at this point, we're probably better off trying to hedge our bets and doing it in as many ways as possible.
Okay.
Leader Amy.
Hey.
Hey, Mr. Walker. So are we like still considered students for like the fall season? And like, how about the first year college students who are like doing online right now? Like, how are they gonna, do you know? How are they gonna graduate?
Okay, so the first part of your question, you should still be considered a fall student. I don't believe that's going to change. I think we're just kind of looking 2 months out. in the industry, they want to get you guys on campus in the fall. I promise you that. So they're going to do everything that they can to make it happen. If for some reason the quarantine lasts well into the summer, especially for all businesses, we're just going to have to wait and see what that announcement would be from the colleges. So far, you would be counted as fall starting. So I would still make all your plans in the mind that you would be enrolling in the fall. And the second question was about online classes. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, like first year, like freshmen right now in college, like, are they gonna graduate still
Oh, I see what
on
you mean.
time?
So people
Yeah.
who are currently enrolled in college.
Mm-hmm.
So what the colleges are going to honor their credits as much as possible. Some universities are going to a pass-fail system. Some are just doing online and they're not extending their semesters. So they're not going to get an eraser on their academic record. What's going to happen, there may be a delay in getting their grades posted. There's going to be a lot of understanding in that, but they will be still on the same path to graduate. Everything this semester is still going to count for those current freshmen. Very good question.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, Mahogany.
Mr. Walker.
Hi.
Okay, so my question is like, I know college decision day is May 1st. So do we still have to make a decision by that day? Because I know a few of the scholarships I was offered, they said like you have to make a decision by May 1st, but you said a lot of schools are like extending their deadline. So is that like still a hard deadline?
I will say for your scholarships, just kind of follow along whatever they're asking for. Officially, there has not been an announcement, but I'm just letting you know it's likely going to be moved to June 1st. So it's very unofficial information. But if you're applying for a scholarship and they want something to announce, you can put down, your preferred university, and if that changes, that's fine. It's not anything that's legally binding that's going to stop you from getting the scholarship or attending the university.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I talked about wait lists. One thing I want to do, let me get into these questions because Ms. Moscow said want to try to aim for 6:30. Now, how late can I turn in my FAFSA verification? That was a question that was posted. A little different than what Aaliyah asked. Now, if you're in the process of still getting your financial aid verification, technically you have until school starts to get that paperwork in. Technically, legally, but we don't want to wait till that. We definitely want to have that verification letter in by June 1st to give the financial aid offices time to process documents or to ask for additional information. The verification process, especially if you're waiting for, let's say, a letter from the IRS, unfortunately, that's just a slow process. So the earlier you get that done, the better. But if you are flagged by your university, they typically want that before July 1st. But I think there's going to be a lot of leniency going on this school year. But nonetheless, always better to turn it in sooner than later because you don't know what will slow the process down. And if you don't get that verification in on time, your financial aid won't disperse, your scholarships won't disperse to your account, and you can start the school year maybe owing money or maybe not even being allowed to be on campus, depending on the institution. There's a question here. What's more important when you're thinking financially? Is let's see. Ajay, are you still here? No. Okay. I'm not sure I'm not clear on that question. Maybe if we're thinking about what's important when financial costs for attending a university, I would look at the out-of-pocket costs for every college that you're considering. What that means is that you're going to get this letter, if you haven't already, that breaks down how much school is going to cost. But they have fees in there that is not out of pocket. Like they'll say transportation, healthcare, incidentals. when you're doing your budgets, you want to take those out and look at the final number, which is typically room and board, tuition, and maybe some campus fees. That gives you a true number of first day of school. This is how much you're going to get billed for. And that will help you manage your budget a lot better before you start off college. What's the difference between a subsidized and an unsubsidized student loan? So that's a good question. You guys are probably facing this right now. You're looking at your packages and you're like, what are these loans and should I take them? In general, both of these loans are the safest forms of student borrowing that you can engage in. A subsidized loan means that if you borrow $5,000 for the year, after 4 years, you will owe $5,000. There is no interest accrued while you have that loan. An unsubsidized loan means that if you borrow $5,000, then after 4 years, you may owe $5,400, okay? That means interest added up while you had that loan taken out in your name. If you don't need to get both loans, I would suggest to do the subsidized loan. That's a zero interest loan and typically very, very safe. And then if you need more, go to unsubsidized route. Now, if you're borrowing for college and you're seeing that subsidized, you need to go beyond subsidized and unsubsidized, I always say take a big, big pause, because typically you're not going to get the bang out your buck for your cost of your education. If you're looking at hitting up Discover Student Loans or Wells Fargo private student loans, I say stop right there. It's typically not worth it. They will give you loans at much higher interest rates that you cannot get forgiven, that are not federally protected, meaning that the banks can pretty much charge and do whatever they want with you. They're not as safe as the subsidized and unsubsidized loans. So if you're looking at beyond that realm, I say no. If you're a parent, and again, going a little deeper, no one asked this one, but Parent Plus loans, that often comes up. Parent Plus loans are low interest loans, but there are other ways to pay for school without having a parent go to the Parent Plus loan. If your parent's on the edge, let's say you're about $2,000 short a year and your parent wants to help out, I often say ask the school for a payment plan. They don't charge interest. They don't do credit checks for payment plans. So typically they'd ask for the first month up front, and then you're on the payment plan. You have to pay like $300 or $400 a month. I find that to be a better option for parents than to take a loan that can be difficult to pay off, because with that loan, you have to pay it back right away. Okay, question. Will all schools be moving their final decision to June 1st? Should I even think about going out of state in this current pandemic? Will all schools? Not all schools will go to this June 1st deadline. I wouldn't be surprised if most did, though. Again, this is going to be on a case-by-case, state-by-state basis, that you should not, and you should still act as if everything is going to be due May 1st. Because you want things in early, there's always going to be a backlog. And if the university is overwhelmed, they'll make that announcement formally, and it'll be per university. It's not going to be like NACAC coming out saying, we mandate everybody to be June 1st. We can't do that. But just in the internal conversations, that's just what it's looking like. That also gives an opportunity for anybody who's been dragging their feet this year to apply for a college as their deadlines are going to be moved up to June 1st. Moved back to June 1st. So if you're looking for another reason, to procrastinate, you can jump on and anticipate that your application would still go through, because colleges are going to want to still recruit you. Now, should you go out of state with this whole pandemic? That's a personal decision. Professionally, I would say if the campus is open and they have done their due diligence in keeping the campus clean and maintaining it during the outbreak, there's no reason why you shouldn't leave. Going to Marquette is not going to be any less safer than going to UNLV. You're still going to be going to an environment where there's a lot of people. shared spaces, shared facilities, and I wouldn't let this current situation discourage you. Again, when I mentioned before that a lot of people stay home, that is just typically a financial reaction that people have during crises, where they just look at their budgets and they say, how can we save? Just in case. All of a sudden people worry at, when there's an emergency like this. So it's not necessarily logical, but it's just how people behave. And I'm telling you that so that you can take advantage of some opportunities that might come with that. All right. Which website do I recommend for scholarships? Isn't that the eternal question, right? There is one, I often cite CapEx, but I will show you, I will try to show you a scholarship a scholarship service that I just recently found that I'm a big fan of. Let's see. I don't know if I try to share screens here.
So if you put your mouse to the bottom, there's a green button that says share.
Here you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Click, and then you pick the view you want to share.
You see it?
Yes.
This website's called Career One Stop. I've been using it for the past month, where you can explore careers, find job training, job search, but it also has a really cool scholarship finder. And here, again, I was just kind of filtering things out. It pulls scholarships from across the country that are all local here, local scholarships and national scholarships. No ads, no funny pop-ups. This is professionally what I use. So I will actually put this link here in the chat. There you go. And that's what I've been using to apply for scholarships. Do know that we are at the tail end of scholarship season. There are less and less scholarships available. Doesn't mean you should not try, but we're getting to that end of the season. The PEF should be announcing their scholarship winners probably at the end of April. Same for Ronald McDonald House Charities. Those are big ones locally. But you just have to do your due diligence and research regularly. I often keep my eyes and ears peeled for scholarships, but they are what I'm finding is that there's more of these public education foundation aggregate application sites that keep opening up, and they tend to be more and more local. So just be forewarned. How would I be able to find Grinnell specific scholarships? I've only seen Iowa resident specific scholarships. How do I move past that? Okay, so when you see something that says an Iowa specific scholarship, you got to look at the criteria. The criteria may be an Iowa resident or a specific student at a high school in Iowa. If it's a high school requirement, you're probably not going to penetrate that. If it's specific to, it says a resident of Iowa, you can always make that plea in your application that you are moving to Iowa, and thus you feel that you would be eligible. I would help with that paperwork as well. Grinnell, knowing Grinnell, they would have their own list of scholarships within their website that you would be eligible for if you haven't been awarded that already. The scholarship search engine that I just posted up, Career One Stop, you would probably have scholarships as well that are located just in Iowa that may be favorable to Grinnell. If we're trying to get creative as far as scholarships, let's say you're trying to get that last couple $100s to actually, move out to college. It's not unusual to throw at your graduation. There's one thing I have seen is called a college. It's like a college trunk party where you ask for supplies and donations to help you transition to college. I've been to a few of those and they're actually kind of fun. In lieu of a graduation party, it's like a send off to college party. And folks can tend to be a little bit more generous when you throw that tag into your graduation celebration. And other question here, is CCSD going to push the date for students to go back to school? How do I know how much FAFSA is going to give me for college? So let me answer that first question. What is CCSD going to do? Officially, I can't tell you. Superintendent Jara was given executive emergency powers, if I'm not mistaken. So he can extend the school year if needed be. He can extend the time off. I'm going to probably bet that this this quarantine might last a little longer than we expected. There are some schools districts nationwide that are not in New York and California that have already said that this year is going to be all remote, because the effort to transition back out of it is going to be as chaotic as getting back in, as getting in it. The reason why I mentioned those states is that they have the higher issues of the coronavirus compared to all the other ones. I believe half of all cases of the corona are in New York, Washington, and California nation compared to the rest of the nation. So it's possible that we may not go back to school this year. I have heard, well, I've not heard. I know that several universities have canceled their commencements. I don't know if that's going to trickle down on the high school side. I hope it doesn't, but we just don't know what's going to happen. But on the university side, they have canceled graduations. Morgan State, St. Benedict has canceled. Marquette's canceled. And what happens in those cases, it's not that those students can't graduate. They would just have to graduate at a different date. They do that in college. Like, you can finish your curriculum, let's say in May, but actually apply for graduation in December or the following year. It's very, very common. I'm going to imagine that's typically what's going to happen at the college level. And I hope for high schools that that's not the case. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if ceremonies were delayed or canceled. So I've been talking a whole lot. Are there any comments about my presentation or anything that I brought up? Yes, Amy. Is that Amy? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why my whole legal name is on the thing.
Elmira, yeah.
Anyways, my question was, do you think well, I had two. So the first one is not really about college, but do you think summer programs are going to be canceled in June and July because they're already on schedule?
I have seen several summer programs being canceled already. Because again, a lot of those summer programs are on university campuses and they don't know when they're allowed to open, and thus they aren't allowed to plan.
Okay.
So yeah, we are seeing cancellations of summer programs.
Okay. And then the second one is kind of I don't know. Okay. So on the financial aid letter, they only give you money, well, for myself, until spring of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean every year, we have to all apply for more money and go through FAFSA and everything else?
Oh, very, very good question. So yes, your financial aid package is for fall 2020, spring 2021. That's it. Typically, you get that same amount every year unless something arduous happens where your GPA falls substantially, or you change your major and you're no longer eligible for a specific scholarship. Most colleges are really good about renewing their scholarships every year, but you are responsible for completing and filling out your FAFSA every October. So next October, You're going to have to do that. You don't have to do it on your own. I'll possibly see if I can't work with Erica to do a remote FAFSA walkthrough for alumni periods specifically, which could be, it's going to be a lot easier to renew your FAFSA than to do what you did this year. Because this year, when they ask about verification, extra paperwork, that's typically they do that the first time, but you're not likely going to have to do it again. Paul, you got something for me? I like picking on you.
I do, but I don't know if I'm supposed to. It's because I have questions about my financial aid letter for Boston University.
Okay.
Can I just pull them up in front of everyone?
Well, it's up to you what you want to do. It's your privacy. We can also talk afterwards.
So here it is.
Okay.
I don't know what any of this means right here.
Sure. Hold on. Let me move this thing out the way.
Oh, well, you got some money.
That's pretty awesome. Okay. So your question is what are you looking at here?
Mm-hmm. Because they say 50,600 right there, but 45,100 right here.
Mm-hmm.
So
it doesn't look like your Pell Grant's on there. So when they say to offer a tentative 50,000, I'm going to assume. Can you scroll down a little bit? I'm going to assume your Pell Grant. Yeah. So for some, all right, your subsidized your loans are posted, but for some reason your your Pell Grant isn't there. Do you remember if you received one or not?
I didn't get any Pell Grants.
Like you didn't qualify or
No, my dad made too much money.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's possibly what that is. So that, can you scroll back up? So that 55 going into that 45. Yeah, it's including your loan. So 50,600 plus a loan of 5,500.
Ooh.
And so, Mr. Walker, when you were saying like those loans like don't go past taking any more than those two that they're already providing you.
Correct.
Because like I've seen on my letters too that they're combining those federal loans into my actual like scholarship money that I'm getting as a whole.
Can you keep it scroll down a little bit, Paul? So yeah, right here, this is correct, Amy. This $5,500 in loan, that is what I would say should be your max that you're personally taking out. So let's assume here we're looking, you see here where it says transportation and other education costs, books and supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not look at that for a minute, but it looks like the tuition for Paul is going to be 58,000. So roughly he's going to have to spend about 20,000 out of pocket after his student loans for this school. Now, I don't recommend Paul getting an external loan. If his parents want to close that gap, that is something that they can make a decision as a family. But the reason why I often don't recommend to borrow beyond that, and again, it depends on the major, it depends on a lot of factors, but typically I don't recommend it. But because you have to multiply all these loans times 4. So looking at the federal loans, 5,500 times 4, you're going to spend about $22,000 in loans to go to that school. That is not an insane amount of money, especially for a good school like Boston. Now, if it becomes $25,000, right, because he has to get a $20,000 loan, let's say there's no additional help, no additional external scholarships or anything like that, 25 times 4 is $100,000. $100,000 student loan is a lot. And Boston is a fantastic university, but you have to weigh things accordingly. I do know Paul wants to go to medical school. That's in his trajectory. He wants to go to Johns Hopkins for medical school. If this was a part of the grander plan and the trajectory, Paul's committed to becoming, a medical doctor who's going to make well over $150,000 a year. It may or may not be valuable. That's on a case-by-case basis. But if, let's say, you wanted to become a teacher, I love education, I work in education, but I can never recommend somebody get a $100,000 loan to become a teacher. I just couldn't do it. I would always say flat out no. But again, there's always exceptions to these rules. So that I hope that explains it for you a little, Amy.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then something that I think will be helpful is Paul could work with you, Mr. Walker, and compare this one to the Seton Hall one, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
because I think he has less out of pocket for Seton Hall.
Oh, really? Okay. If you're able to pull that up, I can do a quick commentary on that. And while he's pulling that up, that less out of pocket expense is going to be that, I think, the deal breaker for everybody. Like, you want to make sure that you're spending as little as possible and getting the maximum return for your investment, because college is an investment. There is such a thing as a bad investment. Okay. You could, like, just leaning on teaching, because Erica and I are both educators. We've been there, done that. It's a fantastic profession, but you don't necessarily need to have $100,000 in debt to be a fantastic teacher. So we have to just take things into consideration and accordingly assess what is going to be the best bang for your buck when you're applying and when you're deciding to go to college, because you don't want to overpay for any degree.
I have a question, Mr. Walker.
Yeah, go ahead, Mahogany.
So I've gotten a few like financial aid packets from schools that I put on my FAFSA, but I don't understand them. So like the one I got from University of Illinois Chicago, like I don't know what all like the numbers mean, like Paul's. It kind of looks like that, but I don't have them on email. They like mail them to my house.
Okay.
So, like, how do I like give you my question?
Well, if you could take a picture of it on your phone and text it to me, I could take a look at it.
Okay.
If it's not ready by the time we're done at this call, you and I can just do a separate meeting tomorrow and go over it together.
Okay, yeah, I'm not home right now, but yeah, they're at my house.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Can I ask a super quick question?
Ask away.
So like, as a sophomore, if you're still, for example, if you're still going into the same school, will the financial aid amount that they gave you as a freshman change as a sophomore? Like, are they going to give you more or less during your second year in that same school?
It can happen. You can easily get more money just as you can easily get less money.
How can you get more? Like, do you just have to put in the work like you did for the first year?
Yeah. So external scholarships, once you're in college, are very, very few and far between, but they're not impossible to get. They tend to be specifically within your major. Let's take engineering, for example. If you were a sophomore going to Xavier University and they saw that you kept a 3.5, the engineering school might come through with extra money. That is something you do see in college. The further you are to graduate and the stronger your grades are, the more money does come. The inverse is true too. If you're at Xavier and they gave you a scholarship and you got like a 2.4 and you're barely hanging in there, they're going to start rolling back some of those scholarships. And, the operative word in scholarship is scholar. So it's always academic based. You can't have a 2.0 and expect to be thrown scholar money. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Especially as a college sophomore, you're looked at as an adult. You're not as cute as you used to be. No one wants to put you in front of the newspaper and give you a big check. It's just a completely different game. They want numbers. They want to see a high GPA. They want to see you involved in their extracurriculars, and they tend to be a lot more localized.
Mr. Walker, I also have a question. So what about in-state tuition? So after, let's say if I go to a certain school for 2 years, would I get in-state tuition as well if I'm going out of state?
Depends on the state. You have to do that research ahead of time. Some states are very lenient on that. Florida, Texas, Utah, they're pretty good about giving in-state residency. Typically, you have to just get a new state ID, register to vote. But in the majority of other states, they don't count student housing as living locally. And if you have a part-time job, you need to earn at least $12,500. And that's dangerous because if you earn that much, you could lose some of your financial aid. So it just depends on state by state. We got to see what those laws are.
Okay. And also, what about registering to vote? Because you mentioned that. So like, if I'm registered to vote in Nevada and I go out of state for this coming school year, how does that work?
You can vote remotely. You can mail in your vote.
Okay, for sure.
There's a comment that Miss Mosca put on here that's pretty good. If your FAFSA changes, your parent income goes up, you could see less money as well for college. They typically are going to go 1 year behind. So when you apply for the FAFSA this October, it's going to be based on 2020 numbers. I'm sorry, 2019 numbers, I believe. Yeah, you're using 2019 numbers. So it's going to be like a year behind. But if your parents' income changes, your FAFSA could change as well. And also, going to college does not automatically make you an independent student. If you haven't been identified as an independent student now, that's not likely going to change after you graduate. How are we doing? We're good? All right. So we went over a whole lot today. One other thing I want to mention, since there are going to be college deadlines that are going to very likely move to June 1st, we meaning WACAC, the Western Association of College Counselors, we're going to be doing a week-long virtual college fair that's possibly going to roll into the weekend, the week of April 20th. So there will be about 100 participating universities talking to juniors and seniors. And the reason why I'm saying seniors is that if you're looking at your financial aid package right now and you're feeling like this is not quite it, there are still some colleges that will take you. Leader Richard last year, we had a heck of a time with his application, and we didn't find University of San Diego till mid-April. So that was, and then he ended up getting a decent amount of funding at that school. So it's never quite too late. Again, I'm always going to say, go for those institutional scholarships. WUI schools are still in full effect. They still have open deadlines. If you're looking for an affordable way to get out of school, if you're looking for an affordable way to get out of Nevada, the WUI is always still a fantastic choice. So I just want to put that out there. Okay, well, I don't have any more comments for today. I want to thank you guys for giving me an opportunity to speak. Hopefully things went well. Sorry, Ms. Mosca went over on time.
Oh, that's okay.
I said 30 minutes.
It's good.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Everybody want to give Mr. Walker one word real quick before we end?
Grateful.
Grateful.
Thankful.
Humbled. And let me remind you, you guys have my phone number. You know how to reach me. I can virtually meet. I told you guys it's actually been over a year since I've started working with you, right? Told you guys a year ago, you call me and I'll come. So I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what scholarship letters you've received. I don't know what information you have. So don't assume that I know what's going on. Please reach out, text me. We can get on this video chat and chop up some of your questions.
I got into Middlebury.
You did? Hey, congratulations.
So
Where is that at?
Flag. They sent me a flag.
Wow.
Vermont.
Did they give?
Cool.
Did you get a package yet?
No, they just sent me the letter.
Okay.
Wow.
Look at you, Paul.
Congrats,
Getting
Paul.
some wins.
The founder of Akipa went to Middlebury. It's a very good school.
Very good school.
Mr. Walker, I don't have your number.
It's my direct cell phone. This is one is not on the website. It's area code 301 343. I'll put it on the chat. 3355.
Thanks.
You can also iMessage me on my email, Herbie@WCCLVS. That works on iMessage too.
Okay.
All right. I think this is a first successful one. We'll talk about how to do this in the future. And once it's recorded, we can put it on our virtual site too for the others who aren't on it.
Awesome. Side question: how's my video and audio looking on your side?
Great.
Pretty
good.
Okay. I got a lot of equipment here, so I wish I could turn around the camera so you could see. But
It's been prepared, huh?
yeah, I've been looking forward to this all week.
Oh,
Nice to know.
all right. Well, it's nice to see you all. We'll
All
see you
right.
in a week.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.